Our first guest this morning, the author of a book, Lessons in Loss and Living. Dr. Michele Reiss has penned the book. Dr. Reiss specializes in helping clients cope with life-threatening illness and also helping families through the grieving process. She says today's message in the book is really for all of us because life is precious, life is short, and as we get to a new year, it's important to look at not only some endings, but also some beginnings to living our lives with joy. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me to be here.
I think it's interesting, as we were talking, as Dennis was just doing the weather a moment ago, this book idea actually came from Randy and his wife as you were working with them.
That's correct.
Tell me about that.
That's correct.
Yeah, when they said to you, this is something that would help other people, it's helped us?
Yes, they actually, they found the work that we did really useful, and they kind of turned and said, how do we share this with a larger audience than the patients that will find you someday in Pittsburgh? And I was fairly stumped with how to do that. And Jay Pausch actually turned to me and said, you should write a book.
Randy Pausch, of course, the CMU professor, and his
Right.
wife, Jay. Jay writes the foreword to the book.
Yes, she does. It's a project we were all pretty committed to.
Right, right. What was it that they took away? What was it that was so important to them that they said this could help other people?
I think that what they worked so incredibly hard on was the desire to not allow the diagnosis, the horrible diagnosis of pancreatic cancer, to take away their capacity to live and to love any sooner than it had to be. So they really struggled with, what are my priorities, what's important, no matter what time's left, let's do this journey well and let's live life well.
Right. There's a country music song, Live Like You Were Dying,
Exactly.
that talks about many of the same sorts of things that are in here. The idea there is to go out in a blaze, to do everything that you wish you'd ever done. For those of us, though, who have not been diagnosed that way, sometimes the urgency, they have the same amount of time that we do, and yet we don't get around to doing it. How do you put that urgency there? How do you put that to say, you know what, a little impetus, a boost along the way to say, let's do this?
I think that's the other lesson in the book. The book's a collection of stories, and most of the people are dealing with either a serious illness or grief. So they're coping with adversity. But I think the lesson for the rest of us is it shouldn't take a serious illness or the loss of a loved one to make us really live our life thoughtfully. A lot of the patients that I've worked with have said, you know, all of a sudden, because I have this horrible illness, often it's a cancer, I feel like I'm now living my life in Technicolor instead of black and white, because everything is so precious, because nothing's going to last. You see it in like a kaleidoscope. Every sunset, every moment with a relative or a friend is so precious. And many of them say, why did it take this illness to make me appreciate life? Why did I take it for granted before?
In your book, you talk about case studies. You talk about these people. You refer to them as heroes.
Yes.
These are heroes to you. Why? Why do you choose that word?
One is because I think some of them, like Randy Pausch, had this amazing capacity to live life joyfully. And I admire and am humbled by that. And two is because I see these people rally through incredible adversity. And still maintain their sense of self, who they are, what's important to them. And they don't get lost. They visit the bitterness and the grief and the sorrow and the pain and the suffering, but they don't stay there. And that, I think, is very admirable.
It is. It really is. When you are looking at somebody who has a diagnosis, they find out you don't have long to live. Is that really the start of the grieving process for the family, for the loved ones who are not sick? Or does something, obviously something changes with the death of that person, but is that the same sort of thing? Are you grieving even before, or is grief reserved until after the final time?
It's actually a great question, and it is applicable to some of the recent events in the news. For people that are seriously ill, there is the incredible sorrow of seeing your loved one suffer and go through whatever that illness involves, but there is time to prepare. There is time to deal with unfinished business. There is time to say goodbye. And we call that time of preparation anticipatory grieving.
So you know
it's not an easy process, but it does start you on the road. It does not change the power of the actual loss of the person, but it does prepare you. People that deal with unexpected losses, like like the recent shooting of the Congresswoman and the other people in that area, they had no warning. And so they experience a different kind of like shell shock and disbelief because there was no time to say goodbye.
What do you like best about your book? Michele Reiss is our guest here. She wrote a book that's talking about dealing with loss and living, lessons in that. What do you like best about it?
I like best the stories. I feel like I'm truly honoring all of these incredible heroes that I've been privileged to work with. So it's my chance to give back.
And for you, it's also personal that you're talking about your own mom and dad.
Yes, yes it is.
Was that difficult to do, or is that something that's cathartic?
Yeah, those were probably the hardest parts to write.
Were they?
Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. What do you hope that people take away from it? As people pick it up and they look at it and they're thinking about these difficult to wrestle with subjects, what do you hope they learn?
I hope that they take two things from it. One is that as hard as life gets, we have the ability to cope and to survive and to heal over time. We're all a little bit stronger and braver and more resilient than we think we are. But I hope that the rest of us take from it that life is truly precious. So say you love the people that you love, spend time with your friends, do the things that are important to you, don't wait. Because there's a to-do list that's getting in the way. Right,
there it is. That's great advice as we start a new year. Thank you very much for being here.
You're very welcome.
It's great to meet you, and best of luck with the book.
Thank you very much.
Hope that it goes very, very well. Michele Reiss, kind enough to be with us here, talking about her brand new book, and it is a wonderful, wonderful read. Lessons in Loss and Living. It's in bookstores now, and it's online too. We've got a link for you on our website at kdk.com/PTL.